How come most startups fail, even when we have more tactics and strategies than ever before? Join the bedside chat of an entrepreneurial couple as they share what it takes to create a business with ease and in flow.
Welcome back to another bedside chat, Business Flow bedside chat. I'm Natasha Koo.
And I'm Jachym.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Well, we really have something crucial to share with you. At least we believe that it's really important to do or to have as you are, creating your startup or building your business or even as an ongoing thing.
What's that?
We didn't make a name up for it. We had a meeting today. And it's unlike other meetings where we talk about, what should we do today? What's on our to-do list? And what should we get going? It wasn't that kind of meeting.
It was kind of an overview meeting where we reflected on the week, what was good, what could be improved, and then going back again to the overall picture and what we have done. So one thing was like we have set the foundation and started on it, and there's still more to do in that. That's step one. And then there's step two, where you work the systems, you do the actions that you take. You look confused. I'm probably not expressing it very well.
No, you're doing fine. But I just want to differentiate it between, I guess by now, there are 3 types of meetings that Jachym and I have. The first one is, which is what I mentioned, is the to-do list for the day, the get the done. That doesn't make sense. Get the things done type of meeting. And then you have the strategy meetings, which we usually do in the forest, on a walk. And those strategy meetings, as we call them, is for certain ideas that we have in mind. So, for example, it could be for YouTube. We know we want to do vlogs, but it's not clear. So those strategy meetings, following a feeling, following an idea, but then getting clarity so that we can get the answers that you're looking for, right? Finding out those solutions, and then we can implement them. So we have the to-do list kind of meetings, we have the strategy meetings to get clarity, and then this one, it's an in-between, isn't it? Because I see it as plotting yourself, plotting your position at the moment, and it's almost like you have a marathon. Where are you right now? So what have you gotten done? How far have you ran, I guess? And how far do you have to go? And we're not talking about how far do we have to go, end goal when we've taken over the world and there's an empire. It's not that kind of, marathon. It's more like what we know is clear, what we know are the next, say, 20, 30 steps that are quite concrete for us now, and how far have we come, right? So for every business, there's a huge to-do list. There are so many little nitty-gritty tasks and so many things you have to do, but not everything has its priority at the top, right? Things have varying priorities, and everything has a sort of timeline in which it needs to unfold. So for certain things, it's extremely important that we do it first. So maybe you can take over, Jachym, and talk about plotting where we are at now, and also finding that emphasis, finding the priorities, because that was kind of the bulk of the conversation today on this special meeting.
Yeah, well, because there's so many different things that you can do and that you can get done, you gotta really find what makes the difference in your business, what is gonna yield the biggest results for you, and then focus on those things. And as we've mentioned before, that kind of meeting is more a bird's eye view. It's not in the business. You're thinking about your business. You're thinking about strategic movements of how to move forward and what are the things that you want to focus on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I got another vision, and you guys, I work really visually, and a lot of my understanding actually comes from what I see in my head. So I already described to you this meeting being plotting down where we are in a marathon, right? So to compare the 3 different types of meetings, and I know I'm kind of like pounding this to death, but I think it's kind of useful if I describe it visually, how I understand it right now to you too, is the ones with a to-do list. In that vision I have in my mind right now, it's kind of like, okay, you have a marathon and you're looking at, okay, until the lunch break, or until, I don't think you have lunch breaks for marathons, but anyways, until the next break or until the next stage, what is it that I need to run? Like, how do I want to run it, right? So like, that's like, okay, exactly now until like near future, what do I need to get done, right? So that's kind of like the view. And then for the strategy meeting, it's kind of like, all right, I need to get to that end goal. How do I want to preserve my energy? Am I, running like my pace? Am I kind of focusing on other people? Is this like, am I doing the sort of thing that I trained for, right? So that's kind of like the strategy, the big picture, that kind of thing. And then this meeting is kind of like the in-between. Choosing the routes, like am I doing the routes, like the fastest route? Not that you have an option when you're running a friggin' marathon. Like, this is the worst metaphor ever, but I hope that you're getting the gist of what I'm saying, is that, we're all running a marathon, but we can focus on the short term, what exactly we need to do. We can focus on the grand strategy, and then we can look at the little strategies in between and have a type of perspective. Because say you're in the last 100 meters or something and you're nearing the finish line, how you approach that is going to be very different than the middle of your marathon or the beginning. So to have this perspective, to have this bird's eye view, to know that you have different tools and different ways in which you can approach your business, all in the goal of reaching that end, that line, then it's a really great thing to have from the beginning.
And I can really recommend that you do that, especially if you're a solopreneur, because you can just think, yeah, I know what I'm doing and I kind of see it, but just sitting down once a week, reviewing it, going over it, seeing what works, what doesn't work, looking at your numbers, tracking the things that you do, and then take informed decisions from those numbers. It can really change the way you do business, and it kind of helps you to step out of the just day-to-day tasks of getting things done and focus and act as a business owner. So if you're a solopreneur, do that once a week and can really recommend it. Take a piece of paper, look at what you're doing, what you have done, where you're moving, what are the things that are really going to make a difference in your business. Think about your business rather than just work endlessly on it and in it.
Mm-hmm. So practically speaking, I kind of want to break down how we did our meeting today, because it's good to know exactly what we did, and it's also good that hopefully from my metaphors you're able to understand the difference between the approaches, right? So like Jachym said, we did sit down and we look at, okay, what's important for us in the next while, not just today, but in the next while, maybe a week or even beyond that. And then before we even looked at the priorities, you were like, let's reflect on the last week, because on this episode today, we are on day,
I don't know, 16, 15, I think it's 16
of our business. So we've come a bit more than 2 weeks now. So with all the work that we've done, with all the conversations that Jachym and I had and the collaboration that we share, how was it? So we shared a couple of good things we enjoyed, things that we thought worked really well. And then we also shared a bit about what could we improve on, what could we change and shift because it could be better.
Absolutely. And it kind of focusing on the positive is good because it reinforces the things that are already working fine. And then looking at what can be improved will help you to adjust the things that are not as good. And you said, I kind of just get into the tasks and I just see the next task, but I don't actually see what's coming from the future. So that's how we then decided to look at where are we then in the whole business process? What are we doing? What have we done? And where are we moving? What are the next big steps that we need to take?
Mm-hmm. And so, since right now we are still building the foundation, I know a bit more than 2 weeks in, but we're really still setting things up and like getting the machine set up so that we can run it. We can just crank the handle and then get it moving. So since we're still at this point, we don't have a lot of data or feedback in terms of engagement or what the market is responding with. We have some, for example, with the numbers of downloads for this episode, or not episode, but this podcast, numbers on YouTube and so forth. But we're just getting started in terms of our actual content creation and following that strategy. So one of the missing piece, as Jachym said, is that once we get it going, once everything's set up, it's important that we track it. And this is really important because it's one thing to just say out loud, oh yeah, in the last 2 weeks I felt good about this. That I thought worked well, and that I thought didn't work out so well. But a lot of that's subjective and it's your own experience and it's kind of like what you prefer personally. But then there's the aspect of the business speaking back to you. So you have your own preference and then the business has its own preference. And if you track the numbers, the business will tell you, well, your podcast, when you wrote that title, I didn't like it and no one in the world likes it. And you're like, oh, business, I hear you. Let me change it now. So apparently our business has a voice. So once you get that feedback, you can understand, all right, the world likes this. I can shift my content more in that direction because people are very responsive. That's what people need, right? Doesn't mean that you're changing your whole business structure and strategy just because you got a feedback, but it means that you kind of pivot in a direction that's favorable to you and to content that is working anyways. And then for the ones that don't work, right, that you can track because you have the key performance indicators in place, then you can be like, all right, that was fun to do because I wanted to do it at the time, but maybe we shouldn't, put so much energy into it. So it's only when you track the key performance indicators that you begin to notice, that's where the world, the universe, my business is asking me to give a little bit more. So that's really important. And for those of you who don't really know what key performance indicators are, I'm sure you can Google it. Lots of stuff in the business you can just Google. The how-to you can definitely Google. But in this case, it could be number of followers, number of likes, engagement, number of sales conversations, things like that. I'm sure you get it.
Mm. And it's also important to notice that when we were holding this meeting, we were more in kind of a relaxed space. It wasn't we're stressing out and we're crazy busy and we were like close to burnout or something like that. In order to hold this kind of meeting, the internal experience is also important, that you are actually in this resourceful state and you're looking at your business and you're not super attached to whatever you're doing. You're just experimenting, you're trying things out and adjusting on the way and pivoting if you need to pivot. It's a game.
Mm-hmm. And this is the beautiful thing. Why I want to share in such detail the type of meeting that we had today is because many of us do business, right? We have our startup, we're doing the hustle, but we lose track of where we are, first of all, in the marathon, right? In the grand scheme of things, where am I? And second of all, we don't have these reflective moments where you actually take a look at what's working and what's not, how you feel and, what doesn't feel right anymore. And when you do this type of reflection, you get more control over your business again, because sometimes it can feel like, oh, I'm just doing everything and I feel out of control. The market I can't control, my clients I can't control, and I have all this to-do list and it just piles up on you and you feel like you've lost the rein somehow. This is like the ultimate way to remind yourself, my why, where am I headed? I chose all of these things, by the way. My why, the vision, the ultimate vision, the impact I want to create, right? The goals you set. You choose those things. Like no one, like God didn't come down and say, this is your purpose and like do it now my way and these are your goals. Like no one did that to you. Like we're doing this to ourselves. Yet sometimes we can feel out of control. So when you reflect again and you have this moment with yourself and you bring your honesty and you let your ego go, you get perspective, but most importantly, you'll get the control back into your hands, and then you'll realize, aha, things aren't working and I can do something about it. Or things are doing well, I'm going to amp it up. Like this is really, really useful because this helps you from further drowning in all the things you have to do. And that's when you lose ultimate perspective and things get really hard. So ultimately, this type of meeting and this kind of conversation with yourself or your business partner is going to keep you in flow.
I believe as well it's important to mention that we tend to kind of disregard reflective time because at the end you don't see a clear output as much as when you just go and do tasks. And we kind of get obsessed with being productive and, making things happen, not realizing that actually the opposite side of a reflection, of thinking, of taking time off, of just being is actually equal important, if not even more important, because you can set the direction in a completely new way that's more beneficial for you, that will get better results than we just keep grinding away mindlessly at your to-do list.
Plus, it's a good time to kind of pat yourself on the back. No matter what the key performance indicators tell you, you did a lot of friggin' work. Like if we look back upon the 2 weeks, we're like, we're so great. And you know what? Sometimes you'll get bad results. That's fine, right? But
here's the thing. So you get bad results. That's feedback. It's not the results you want, but it's feedback, and it gives you further information of how you can go about to building the business. Because the results, they just tell you that what this kind of action produces for you. And so you might just have to adjust the actions that you're taking.
Mm-hmm. And I'm really excited maybe a week or 2 or 3 from now to keep sharing our progress. Because, right now you might be thinking, okay, easy for you to say, first meeting, life hasn't slapped you in the face yet. That's probably true. So maybe a few weeks from now when Jachym and I do, multiple such sessions, but maybe we come across a moment where we're like, oh my goodness, the numbers are really not where we want them to be. Then that comes the emotional aspect. How are we gonna emotionally be able to ride that through, right? So when things aren't going your way, are we willing to just let our ego go and not just focus on the impact and the business, the ultimate vision that we want to create? Are we going to be so hung up on disappointment and this and that and self-loathing and self-whatever that we can't even move on? Do you know what I'm saying? So it's really important that you understand, and we all understand that, yes, there are numbers, yes, it's reflective, but this could be a huge trigger for many of us who might not be at peace with ourselves, who have what do you call it when you just want to be a big peacock and just go around and be like, I'm so great. Like maybe this kind of reflection shows you that, oh, wait a second, it's not that great. And then it can very possibly, bring up emotions, but that's why the inner work is also important. And I wanted to just remind all of us that it can trigger and can bring up that emotional and very personal piece, that attachment to the business.
All right, I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Yes, I hope that this episode has really helped you. I know both of us are really excited to share this meeting, this whole idea with you. Listen to it multiple times if you have to. I know we went relatively quickly, But you can always find a transcript if you want to catch every single word of ours. You can head over to bizinflow.com, find the episode number very easily, and then from there you can read through everything that we've said. I just can't promise that my funny voices of my business and everything else of the guard coming down and telling you what to do is gonna be in the transcript, but at least you heard me for now, right? So that's it for now.
Goodbye.
Good night, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. And I really do hope that this has helped you. And if it does, just give us lots of stars. Let the world know that, our episode is something good that has helped you along, and it'll help other people be able to discover this podcast too. So see you all tomorrow, and good night.
Good night.